Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om. Allah Satnam.
Welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity. And today we're speaking with two Brahma Kumaris, Jackie Russell and Greg Church. Last week we interviewed both Jackie and Greg about meditation, which is the basic key to the Brahma Kumaris philosophy. But before we go further, could I ask you please, Jackie, to just give a bit of an outline of the Brahma Kumaris?
Well, Brahma Kumaris is often a lead-in and referred to, shortened to BKs, to Centres for Spiritual Learning. And this was its origins in India, and it was a centre for spiritual learning and education of spiritual values. And the significant and probably unique aspect for an organisation being developed in the mid-30s was that the founder, whose name was taken, the name was given to him was Brahma, gave his considerable wealth into the hands of a trust of young women, teenagers, some of them. And so it was called Brahma Kumaris, being the daughters of Brahma. And the idea was the study and the learning of spiritual values and their practical application to life. It's now international, worldwide, everywhere. You'll find not loudly talking or proselytizing, but just getting on with trying to introduce a peaceful aspect into people's lives through this Raja Yoga meditation, which means self-development, self-management.
Right. And so, Greg, you're a practitioner and teacher in this, aren't you? Yes. So how does it differ, the Raja process, how does it differ from, and there's a myriad other, I realise it's a big question, but just briefly, what would you say would be the key ways it differs from some of the other forms of meditation?
Well, I'll say the most significant thing that it's open-eyed. And there's a popular line on our advertising which says that it's open-eyed meditation to see what's going on. And it's like, it talks about the third eye, if you like.
Yes.
Popular understanding that there's an eye of perception. And so while the physical eyes see what's going on, there's an eye of understanding, awareness that perceives what's going on. And when you can observe what's happening with that aspect, with that awareness, you can, then perception is very, very important as how you respond. So the meditation gives you lead-in time. It gives you time to pause very imperceptibly when you observe what's happening through your physical eyes and through your understanding, through your perception, then you can probably respond differently from what you would if you had just seen it with your physical eyes and not given it a great deal of thought. Okay.
So that you're engaging that, so you're in meditation right now, you're in guided meditation, so you're open-eyed and you're engaging this other form of awareness at the same time. So I see. So
it takes practice.
Yes.
But because it's actually a very natural form, it's very natural to us because we do this, but perhaps not with so much awareness. We're doing it all the time. We're summing up situations and coming to conclusions very rapidly. But once you start to focus on how this process is working and you can interrupt it with some new information, then you have a better understanding. Gosh, it just improves everything you're doing, your relationships, your work, all these things. And it's a very simple thing.
So it's acknowledging the observer of the observer, so it's acknowledging the presence of that other awareness. There's four types of thoughts which are blocks to some of that process. Give us an idea what they might be.
When we talk about this, it's like analysing your thoughts, because you never go through step 1, 2, 3, 4. That's very rapid. But we just say it's interesting to observe what kind of thoughts you do have at any moment. And the major one is we call waste, which is where we indulge a whole lot of repetitive thinking. Often it's criticising ourselves, often it's blaming ourselves, blaming others. It's a thought that is not going to lead anywhere. So we call it a waste of energy thought. And you can estimate how much time of your day is spent in this kind of regret, anticipating the future, which may or may not happen, trying to rewrite the past, which has happened. So it's not productive, but we do it a lot of the time automatically. The other is, of course, there's negative and positive. And then there's the thoughts, because, you know, we're always talking to ourselves. There's a dialogue that's going on inside. And so one of our major teaching is the awareness of the effect of that self-talk and how we can change that self-talk, because that's powerful. So when we create feelings of peace, then peace becomes a power. So we also know that whatever our thoughts are, they're affecting everything we do, what we say and what we feel. Thoughts are very related to our feelings. So we often think they're separate. Earlier on you said it's the big journey is from the head to the heart. I think the big journey in life is also awareness of our effect on ourselves, and then of course our effect on others. So we have these, you can think, in the beginning of the day, I may have planned what I was going to wear to work. I get up, and when I find that there's a scorch or a mark on the shirt I was going to have, I then have to rapidly get another shirt. So I start to indulge in a conversation with myself, which is very limiting and denigrating probably, and negative. So by the time I've made myself late for work, because of this, what I would call my foolishness. However, if I accept the situation, and I just, okay, it's fine, that's done, let me do something else, I'll probably save time and get to work feeling better. But of course it takes time to practice these things. We're very much in the habit of not thinking well about ourselves.
Yes, that's a very powerful. So that's sort of part of that is positive thinking, isn't it? And we'll talk about that after the break. But you do work in positive thinking as well, don't you? As well as the meditation.
Yeah, very key.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking about scorching the shirt. I wonder whether I left the iron on or not. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity. Today we're speaking with two Brahma Kumaris, Jackie Russell and Greg Church. Before we closed, Jackie, you were talking about positive thinking type aspects. I think, Greg, you do stuff on that, don't you?
I do. We see this as integral to the process of Raj Yoga. What we find is that, you know, everyone has heard things, there's a lot of expectation attached to meditation, and everyone has seen the end result, that of the blissful, peaceful, silent mind. And then we sit to meditate and we experience what's really going on. And we find that there's an enormous disconnect between what I think I should be doing and what I'm actually experiencing. So when we understand this process and we know the value of positive and pure, elevated thinking, it has an enormous impact on our ability to take what is a number of steps before we reach that destination. So with that in mind, we use a process of self-talk, of speaking to the self in a way that is uplifting, with that knowledge that my thoughts are directly and immediately producing the feelings that I seek. So really the goal here, or the rather than looking too far into the future, having that immediate goal of thinking better, and feeling better, because those thoughts connected to the feelings are going to produce the atmosphere that I want to achieve inside.
Yeah.
Having said that, once I have mastered this, the next steps that are of reflection, concentration, and ultimately realization, they come by themselves. So the people who probably succeed best at meditation are those who have understood the value of positive thinking.
Positive thinking, okay. So I'm driving along and I turn down the wrong side street and I say to myself, you are an idiot. How's this what you're talking about? Obviously, that's the wrong thing to say. What would I say?
Well, look, it's a funny thing that, one example I use frequently is that of, we find that insomnia is a big problem.
Yes.
And people will, who the insomniac is laying in bed and looking to the ceiling, and the things they're telling themselves is, I can't sleep. Well, right. They've just written it in stone.
Yes.
They've sealed their fate for the rest of the night. Now, I, on the other hand, luckily am a good sleeper, but if on that occasion I'm looking at the ceiling and I'm finding sleep eludes me, what do you think I'm saying? I'm certainly never, ever entering into that kind of chit-chat that I can't sleep. Yeah. In fact, I want to tip the scales the opposite way, so of course I then become the master of sleep, the conqueror of my physical organs. So it's just a little trick that we learn, that ability to deal with sometimes benign situations and sometimes important events, that the way I treat myself has that ability to impact immediately and long term on my desired results.
And that comes back to your point about self-talk, Jackie, because this conversation going on with us all the time, isn't it? Where you're making judgments of what you're doing, and if you make negative judgments, you'll get negative outcomes. And so it's actually. So how would I come in? How would you teach me how to do positive thinking? What will we do?
I was just thinking while you were saying, because so many people have experienced negative things being said to them from a very early age.
Right.
And so one of the things that meditation does for you is to take your concentration from external influences to understanding and emphasizing internal experiences.
Yes.
So you can move away from what external has been said to me, to valuing what internally I say to myself. I mean, that's something for people to actually realize, that understanding of building my self-respect comes from what I am saying to myself on the inside, regardless of what everyone else has said to me, because I'm different from that.
Yes.
I am different from other people's estimation of me. I'm different from other people's descriptions of me. I have my own identity of who I am, and that's what I want to empower in positive thinking and in meditation.
Yes. So that puts that observer into a very special place, doesn't that? Really is internalizing the observer, is the outcome of that.
But that's a trick that is to be learned, how to do that, because our whole training has been the opposite. So that's why the open eyes too.
Yes, the open eyes, it is contrary to a lot of meditation processes. Where did that come from? Was that Brahma's original idea? Why would you think he would do that?
I think because this is a very natural thing. Earlier you said that we might be in that meditative state while we're here doing this, but we have our eyes open. We haven't closed our eyes.
True.
I mean, commonly closed eyes means sleep, associated with sleep. But it is that you're aware of what's going on and you are translating that into, you're thinking differently. You're observing it and you're thinking positively about yourself and your observations. You're responding to it in a thoughtful way. So it becomes an ability to just be, I mean, they all sound a bit cliche, but it does become easier. It is an easy thing. I think it's a natural process, and we're becoming more natural, and to be influenced by the external events is unnatural.
Yes, yes, that's right.
Maybe we're making a transference.
Yeah, and it's a very powerful one, as you say, because people carry these most terrible wounds that have been given to them from outside, and they're debilitated. So you're drawing the distinction between this outside and the inside, and the ultimate aim of the meditation is to build you up so that you operate from the inside all of the time.
Respect for yourself, yes.
Yes. As I've noticed in talking with people such as yourselves and others who have similar sorts of practices, that you seem to have an avoidance of making observations like political observations, negative observations about people who it's quite easy to make negative observations about, but you avoid that. Now that's to avoid the negative in yourself. And because I talk a lot, we've come to the point where we'll have to have a break, but we'll come back to this point. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity. And we're speaking today with two Brahma Kumaris, Jacqueline Russell and Greg Church. And we were just talking about the way in which negative thoughts can influence you so badly. Jackie, you were talking about the fact of trying to distance yourself from the negativity coming from outside and turning into the positive within. There's some interesting extensions of that in the reflection back of those ideas.
I think one of the things that you learn, because it comes back also as to what Greg was saying about to learn the very simple basics, and then there's a naturalness in it that gets activated or gets emerged, and so the rest comes easily. So it's good to concentrate on the fundamentals, which are those things about stilling yourself, being aware of relaxing your body, tuning in to your own thoughts, listening to your thoughts, those basic things. And then from what happens as conversations start in your mind, they will. And they will be conversations about work or what happened recently. And so then you're aware, and that's not what I want to do now, so I change my emphasis and I'm starting to say, I'm going to repeat to myself awareness of myself. Who am I? I am this individual, unique individual, and I'll start to talk in ways that build up a feeling of confidence in myself. Now, one of the things that destroys that is if I'm always noticing negative things externally, I'm actually reinforcing those thoughts inside myself, for myself. In fact, it's a bit of a truism that if I actually recognize something in someone and criticize that, how do I recognize it? I must be knowing it or have awareness of it. So it's a bit of a test for me to say, oh my gosh, look what happened. So that might be a talk to myself. Oh my gosh, look what happened. I noticed that very critically. So I need to look at myself about that. So as I said earlier, it's a spiritual learning. It's a learning process, and it's a learning about myself and how my thoughts affect everything I do. So what advantage is it really to me, except if I just want to be angry or I just want to be negative, or if I want to be that. And sometimes there is that drive when you look at the world situation. You want to do it, but you're actually not doing yourself any good with it. But I know you are there is some satisfaction in the expressing.
Well,
but,
that's right.
Deepak Chopra once said, and I thought this is very interesting, whatever you're thinking, there are trillions of cells in your body listening.
Yes, that's right, yes. And taking on the tension. That's right. So that's a good basis for leading into the next step, which is, as you were saying earlier in a conversation, that grand objective of absolute sublime peace and whatever. So how do you take the step from this process of looking at your thoughts into the meditation?
Look, the funny thing that happens is that it's like going on a journey that you've never been on. you know, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And we find when the mind and intellect is engaged in a positive way, that I've understood my value, I can see the goal of creating good feelings and all of that. When I focus my attention there, that third step, so we've looked after the first couple of steps of observing or looking at the situation, contemplation, creating the thoughts and feelings. That third step becomes one of concentration, and it happens by itself.
Right.
I don't even have to look toward that as a destination yet. But once I've tasted the power of focusing my thoughts and feelings in a direction that I know is beneficial to me,
Yes.
it comes naturally and easily. So this is the wonder of meditation. I look after some very simple things about myself, thoughts and feelings, thoughts and feelings, and concentration comes by itself.
Yes.
And when I am able to take that step deliberately, purposefully, with intention, then I start to realize it. So thoughts of peace become feelings of peace. I concentrate on the experience, and it becomes my reality.
Yeah, actions of peace. You not a lot, but some meditations use mantras, etc. Do you at any point do you use mantras? Do you use OMs? Do you do any of that? Is that not part of it?
It's funny. The word mantra means advice, and so some advice is good. So frequently, yes, to hear good advice is a good thing, but necessarily the repetition of that advice isn't necessarily the mechanism for achieving the result. So I hear the advice, I take that advice and I apply it to my own experience, and it becomes my reality without necessarily having to just repeat it parrot fashion. Having said that, while I'm focusing my mind in a particular direction, well, at least I'm not thinking about all the negative things of the past that have frequently occupied my mind. But our goal would not necessarily be to just repeat something over and over. We have a beautiful phrase that we use, that of the silent mantra.
Yes, yes. The mantras, of course, as you alluded to then, are the way of stilling the mind, worrying about other things. But yes, I see the process, and this ties once again into the open-eyed meditation. I think that would be. Would you agree that is perhaps the distinguishing feature, this open-eyedness, because it really does address the awareness in a very, very subtle way. It's because we're all familiar with falling asleep and all that sort of stuff.
Look, I think it's integral again to the process, because we want to engage, we want to be alert and actively pursue this goal. The mind can wander, sleep can come, many other things, but most importantly, this is a skill we want to be able to apply in our lives constantly, not just when the atmosphere is nice, when the lights are dim, the incense is burning, nice as that might be. The challenges come at other times.
And it has been nice, and our time is out. Thank you so much for the illumination of the whole issue of meditation from a Brahma Kumaris perspective.
Pleasure. It's been a pleasure being here.
Thank you. You've been watching Harmony and Diversity, and we'll be back next week. Bye for now.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu